I bet you used every bit of that $3,000 budget to diagnose a bad feelings after harness, what should have been diagnosed from Jump Street people and shops like you give the rest of us honest and actually skilled technicians a bad name. Hey everybody, it's Keith with the L1 Automotive Training Channel, and today I got a comment I want to address. So on one of my videos last week, I did a this RAM keeps eating PCMs solved, and I got this comment that's pretty ignorant, so I want to kind of address some of the pieces of it, because maybe I didn't explain the scenario very well. He says, so let me get this straight. You sent one of your elite guys out to diagnose the truck, answers ECM is bad, doesn't find out why it fried, then wants to charge the shop again. So, yes, and here's how that happened. We are called out to the shop because the truck doesn't start and run and they can't figure it out. That's not their repertoire. That's not what they're strong in. They change parts, they do mechanical, all that, so they know their limit, so they call us when they're not capable. So we show up to diagnose the truck. We find that the engine control module doesn't talk. That's why it doesn't crank and start. We check for powers, grounds, comms, all other situations that require the PCM to communicate. We determine there are no loss of powers, grounds, or comms. There's no shorts and no problems in those circuits that would cause the PCM not to communicate. So, because this is a Continental manufactured module, that's a GPEC-2 controller in an FCA vehicle or Stellantis, whatever they're called this week, that is not a abnormal problem for the engine control module to just fail. So, because there's no known issues with that happening, there's no reason to continue in a root cause analysis of why it failed when it's common for them just to fail because of no external problems. So no, you would not continue to diagnose something that failed when there's no obvious causes of failure. There's no burnt pins, there's no damaged wiring, there's no shorts in the powers, grounds, and communication circuit at all. Everything seemed normal, just like all the other GPEC-2s that fail all the time that we diagnose and replace. I stock 52 GPEC-2 and 2A controllers because they fail so often. So no, we don't continue on. The next thing he says, I've been in business for 45 years. I've never asked the customer what is their budget unless after 1 hour diagnostic time, it looks like it's going to get involved. Cool story, bro. You run your business different than I run mine. Congratulations. We run a budget because it makes sense, because everything we get's an absolute disaster. We keep tons of data. I have data of what our average repair cost is for one problem, one fault, one repair where no one else has worked on it. We have those numbers, and typically we give that number to the client as the starting budget, and they can approve or decline that and not use that process. They don't have to bring their vehicle to me, right? A lot of them realize they do because they call. We hear every single day that, you know what, I have an entire phone transcript thing. I'll probably search it and find them, where all the time it's, hey, I called so-and-so, they said I need to bring it to you. Hey, I called so-and-so, said I need to bring it to you. It's every single week, every day probably, we hear that I got your number from so-and-so, they said I need to bring it to you. We're good at what we do. That's just the thing. So we work off of a budget. We do that budget because let's say we set it at $600. That's our average budget that we set. Because for cars that have a single problem and no one else has tried messing with it, the average repair cost is about $600 for analysis, testing, and repair. So that's what we tell them. We say, ring, ring. Thanks for calling Level 1 Automotive. This is Keith. How can I help you? Yeah, I got a problem with the car. I want to find out how much it is to fix it. No problem at all. Here's how we work here at Level 1. What we do is we set a budget for the repair. Let's say, for instance, we set it at our average budget of $600. Now, be aware, we're not saying we need that up front or anything. This is just a budget for the repair. So what usually happens is one of two scenarios. You bring the car in, we start looking at the vehicle based on all the information that we gather here on this phone call, and let's say the technician gets $150 in and decides, holy cow, this thing needs an X part, and that X part is more than the remaining $450 we have available in the budget. So the technician stops at $150, adjusts the ticket to $150, writes up an estimate for the repair for the remainder of what it would cost to fix the car, and we send that to you over text. You can review all of that, the entire estimate, and approve or decline that repair. At that point, you just owe the $150 of the analysis and testing, or you can approve that and we'll repair your vehicle for the total cost of whatever it was. The other thing that happens about as equally as often is we get into the vehicle and we figure out exactly what's wrong with it for, let's say again, $150, and we realize that the fix is only another $300. So we go ahead and just fix the car, and then we give you a call and say, hey, good news, car's all fixed. It was only $482.31 with tax and everything. It's ready for pickup. And then we also send that inspection report. So you have all of the other maintenance items, the car's behind on leaks that we found, any problems we found, so you can plan future repairs whenever it's comfortable for you. We don't do any high pressure sales. We don't do any of that stuff. We don't even try to push people to buy things. We literally, my advisors aren't even called advisors. They're client advocates. Nathan is our senior client advocate. His job is to be an advocate for the client. He is to gather all the information from the technicians, and he is to present it to the client. Nathan makes no more money if he does $2 million in sales than if he only does $1 million in sales. It does not affect his pay. No one's pay at our shop is affected by how much we sell or don't sell. We're not based off that way. All that budget is designed for is to keep us from having to call them every $150, $100, whatever that we set it at, so we can stay out of their hair, we can fix their car. People only care about two things. How much money is it going to cost, and when will my car be done? That's it. That's all that people really care about, by and large. Next, I don't know what your deal is, but all you've been talking about is a video of how you teach and how you've got Navy SEALs for mechanics. First of all, I don't have mechanics. I have technicians. All my guys are extremely technical, and they're specialists. They're not even technicians. The lady that does my wife's nails is a technician. My guys are specialists. So what I mean by that is we are the people that every shop call. We have 1,700 repair shops between Northwest Arkansas and Oklahoma City that call us. We operate Northwest Arkansas, Tulsa, Oklahoma City. Over the last couple of years, we've had technicians in those areas and currently have them in Tulsa and Oklahoma City. And we service just over 1,700 repair shops. And we are the people they call when they can't figure it out. That's what we do. We are the most elite of all technicians in the area. Sure, there's some guys around us that are great. I don't have, I can't say I have the best technicians ever, period. There's no one better ever. But what I will tell you is, by and large, you can go watch all the podcasts from all the people out there, talk to those guys, go to training events and ask them about the technicians that work at level 1 in Tulsa. They will tell you that Jeff, Josh, Zach, John, all my guys and gals are the most elite technicians in the industry, at the top 1%. That's what we do. They do more training than anyone, and they could all leave me today and go make more money somewhere else. They get offers all the time for tons of money, but we are a family. We are a 4-day work week. I buy all of the tools. They don't purchase any tools. We're in an air-conditioned shop, except for my mobile guys. Jeff and Zach have to work in your guys' shops that are not air-conditioned. So step up your game. Those are rookie numbers. We got to pump up those numbers. So look, guys, I have the best guys there is, period. I don't know what to tell you. You can say they're not. I've never heard of you. I don't know your name. I checked out your channel. You got 28 subscribers. You got 17,000 views on the one video, which is pretty baller. I haven't watched the video. I'm not going to. I don't really care. But I don't know what to tell you. If you don't know who my guys are, that's your problem, not mine. So the next thing, the biggest thing that I've got on here is, I bet you used every bit of that $3,000 budget to diagnose a bad feelings after harness, what should have been diagnosed from Jump Street people and shops like you give the rest of us honest and actually skilled technicians a bad name. If you think that what I've done so far is dishonest and you think I'm giving you a bad name, it's because you're self-conscious of your own problems. So here's what I'll tell you, Mrs. L. Let me change the screen so you don't see any of her personal information. Will that show? Ooh, if I move it over, let me see here. If I move it over, you can see the totals. Mrs. L paid a total of $2,405.67. And right there you're going, aha! You spent $2,000 to fix a harness. No. Spent $2,405 after tax to find out what's wrong with this truck, find that there was a harness damaged, repair the harness, retest the harness, make sure there's no other damage, purchase a powertrain control module, install the powertrain control module, program the powertrain control module, and then I'm not going to show because it's going to have her signature and stuff on it. 1, 2, 3 other services that were found during the inspection that she approved. That was the total for the entire ticket. So no, I did not spend all $3,000 finding out what's wrong with the car. We set a $3,000 budget for this car because we were fairly confident we could figure out what's wrong with this car and fix it, even if we had to buy 1 or 2 PCMs for less than $3,000. And we were 100% right, and we were fully capable of doing that, and we did that. We did what another shop couldn't do. They winged coils at it. They put 2 PCMs in it, all those things. One of them was their fault. We came out, diagnosed it, said this was wrong, and then it burned up. Then they obviously didn't diagnose the problem correctly because when they put a second PCM in it, it failed, right? So it went further than that. They did a lot of other things before they called us. I'm leaving out all the rest of the story that you don't know about, and I don't really care to explain to you because I don't have to explain to myself. I will tell you this. People here, a lot of the comments over the last couple comments have been talking about how I'm arrogant. Maybe I'm coming off as arrogant, and I'm sorry. Here's what I'll tell you. There are 3 people in this world that can upset me, and they are in these pictures right here. That is, those are my 2 daughters. You can't see them, but they're both there. Every Father's Day, we take this picture. There they are, a little bit older, and so and there's my wife in most of these pictures as well. So Liz and Rylan and Bailey are the only people in this world that can make me mad because they're the only ones that matter enough to me to make me mad. You guys are just a small thorn in my side that like to leave negative comments. And also, to be honest, it doesn't even drive that much. I get excited to make the video. It's engagement. It's content. It gets views. And you're going to get butthurt about it. And then I'm going to have a bunch more trolls say things. And then I'm going to laugh at them as I enjoy fixing cars. So that's just how it works for me. So call it arrogance. Call it whatever it is. Look, if you haven't figured it out yet, I'm a little bit autistic. I got some tism. And I know everyone says that. Clinically diagnosed and on the spectrum, and I'm sorry. That's just how that's how I am. I come off like that. I come off brash, mean. People that know me know that that's how I am, and I apologize for it often. I just don't do it on the internet because I usually do a good job of masking that. Keith that you see here on videos is a character that I play. I'm actually much more somber and less worked up most of the time, unless I get worked up at the shop. And I'm comfortable with all the people at my shop because they're my family. And that's what I get comfortable around them, so I get worked up around them. That is Marie, our cat. I'm not a cat person, I'm a dog person. We have 5 dogs here. A couple German Shepherds, Great Dane, Toy Poodle, and a Great Pyrenees. So all the mixes of giant ones. Then we got one little one, Stella. She rules the whole house. She's the oldest. She's crotchety. She's a little angry poodle. I don't know where she's at, actually. Normally she's here at my feet. Anyways, Marie was found with her brother in our woodpile, so that's our cats. Obviously, I'm a little bit scatterbrained all the time, too. By the way, I can't stay on. That's the other thing people gripe about. Just get to the point. I'm not here for me to tell you exactly what's wrong with this car. So you have we call it a silver bullet. You just want the answer. You want a silver bullet. I don't provide those here. I'm an instructor. Yes, you mentioned something about, you talk about how you teach. That is my job. 99% of the time is I instruct. Most weeks of the year, I spend my time teaching. I've taught, last night was Tuesday, I taught 2 hours for CarQuest Technical Institute. Last week, I taught a 4-hour class for WorldPack. The week before that, I did 4 more hours for CTI. I got 2 more hours of CTI this week, plus I've taught online, plus this weekend I'm teaching at my shop. We're having people, l1training.com/events. We have live hands-on events all the time. Dave Hobbs, one of my mentors, is going to be there. So I've been sitting here the entire week. I'm going to be sitting in front of this computer, working on curriculum, making sure it's exactly how I want it for this weekend. I've written dozens of classes. If you've ever taken a programming class at any CarQuest Technical Institute from any of the 60, 70 instructors that they've had over the last couple years, I wrote that programming class. That was me. I wrote the domestic one and the Asian one. I've got to update the domestic one, by the way. Randy called me about that. I need to do that because there's a bunch of updates. Because GM just changed their intro ID login 2 days ago. So, anyways, that's what I do. Yes, I teach. That's literally, I go to SEMA and teach, to Apex, Vision, ASTA, ATE, you name the training expo, Auto Care in Australia. I've taught there, and Expo in Australia. 2 years in a row I've taught in Australia. That is my job. I own a shop and a mobile company because it's consistent everyday content. I am logging and remoting into my guys' computers and helping them every day when there's an issue. And I'm constantly staying on top of it. I diagnose 1 car a week sometimes at the shop, sometimes 3-4 cars a week. We were short-handed last week. John was sick. No, he didn't have the parasite. Thank God, John. I'm love you, brother. I'm so glad it wasn't anything terrible like that. But John was out, so I had to do some repairs and some diags, more so than what I normally do. Normally, I grab one and make a case study or content out of it when we find a good one. We get lots of good diags. I'm in inner workings of a shop every day, and I use that to write content that's real. That way, I'm still working on cars every day. I'm not one of those guys that used to work at a dealer, used to work in a shop, and I haven't fixed a car in a long time. I regularly fix cars. That's what I do. So, yeah, I'm an instructor. That's my job. So, because I'm an instructor, I don't give silver bullets. I teach you how to learn and teach you what you need to do to be able to diagnose things later. It's a critical thinking mindset that we use. How does the system work? What's wrong with the car? How could these symptoms fit into the system's design so I can get an idea of what could possibly be wrong? And then I perform testing on those things to determine exactly what the problem is. And then, if I need to, I go for the root cause analysis of that. Why did it fail? A lot of the times it's just based on how the failure happened or what the failure was if we decide we need to go farther. And in this instance, it would make no sense. So, Mr. Chucklin Hard, I apologize that for the 20 to 25 years more that you've worked on vehicles than me, or the experience of 20 to 25 years you have over me, that you didn't learn these things. I'm sorry. Maybe you should go to more training, more classes. We do 100 hours of training a year. Maybe that's what you should look towards doing. I'm really sorry that you've wasted 20 to 25 years of your entire career not learning those things. It's not my fault. But for the rest of you guys, I love you. I love all the things you post, all the positive comments. I read them all. I react to all of them. I thumbs up or heart them. I try to respond back to everything. Thank you so much. I love you guys. I appreciate you, and we'll see you next time.